Hey guys, it's Paul. So I'm showing an updated version of my Tenyi deck. I actually have profiled this before. This one is new because we got a new card in Dual Overload. Also, this is a very budget deck, so if you want something that costs next to nothing, you should definitely build it. It's not the strongest or most competitive thing for sure, but it's fun and I like my worm decks. So, okay. First, we've got Tenyi Spirit Ashuna. So this is your ideal play starter. All of the Tenyi monsters can summon from the hand if you don't control any effect monsters, so they're technically all great for starting up. And they also have effects that you can activate by banishing them from your hand or grave, ideally your grave, while you have a non-effect monster, and this one summons another Tenyi monster from your deck. So ideally you can summon it, then make your Monk of Tenyi, and then banish it and get another Tenyi monster, and you haven't even normal summoned yet. So it's really pretty good, and like I said, being level 7 is nice for synchro plays and things like that. So next, we've got Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha. It's also level 7. Now, this one's actually already used in certain other decks for like going second and stuff. You can just summon it, make a Monk of Tenyi, then use its effect, and bounce an opponent's card. That's all it's really going to do for you there. It's really cool, though, because it's also level 7, so good for synchro summoning, and it's another Tenyi. Next, we have Tenyi Spirit Adara. So this is the Earth Tenyi. I love how they just have like different colors. It's beautiful to me. But yeah, so Tenyi Spirit Adara is your tuner monster, and it's level 1, so conveniently it goes great with these level 7 guys. And its effect is you can banish it from your hand or graveyard, and it will actually return one of your banished Tenyi monsters to your hand. So since they all banish themselves to use effects, this lets you recycle them in that way. But it can't recycle itself, so you will eventually run out of them. But typically, if you've been able to resolve all 3, you're probably doing pretty well, so no need for concern. Has no stats or anything, but it is a level 1, so if you wanted to run something like 1-for-1, you could. I don't run it, but you could. Next is Tenyi Spirit Sthana. So there's actually a couple of benefits to this card. So it's a level 4 monster, and you can banish it and stuff like that whenever your opponent destroys one of your monsters, and then you can revive that monster and destroy one of your opponent's cards, and that doesn't target. Now, I just remembered, I didn't include it in my extra deck, but you can use this with Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome if you want. I don't have them in this extra deck yet because they're currently in a different deck, but I'm just saying it right now. Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome, it's a thing, you can do it with this card. Okay, anyway, Tenyi Spirit Nathana and Nahata, and then Tenyi Spirit Mapura. So this is the Fire and the Wind one. I actually think you could get away with dropping the numbers of these down to like 1 each because they're less useful. If your opponent targets one of your non-effect monsters, you can use this to negate like that effect. And if your non-effect monster battles, you can use this to decrease your opponent's monster's attack and defense by 1500. So they're good. They're just a little bit more situational than the other Tenyis. So like, if you wanted to take them out for maybe like some other hand traps or something like that, that would probably be a pretty good idea. Okay. Next, we've got Mermere. It's your token-generating worm monster. You can actually send it to the grave pretty easily with Vessel for the Dragon Cycle or Foolish Burial, and then bring it back with Shaman of Tenyi. It can make up to 3 tokens in a turn, and it in and of itself is a tuner, so you can actually use it at as many different levels, because each time you make a token, it decreases its level by 1. So you can make it like a level 5 or level 4, or 5, 4, 6. There's a bunch of levels. Anyway, yeah, so this is pretty useful for that reason. Next, we've got our only hand trap. It's just triple Ash Blossom. It's Ash Blossom. Okay, great. Anyways, that's the monsters. Like I said, the Fire and Wind one you might be able to take out for other hand traps or something. Vessel for the Dragon Cycle begins our spells. So this is actually a really, really, really great spell like for an archetype like this. If you control you send a worm monster from your deck to the grave regardless. But then if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you get to actually add one of your Tenyis from your deck to your hand. So ideally, you can like use a Tenyi, make the monk, and then like use this, and that makes it really great. Like I said, it can pitch Mermere. You could also pitch something like Ashuna or Adara, and that way you can get their very beneficial effects, or even Vishuddha, which could bounce a card. So this is really nice. Our field spell, Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. So I wish they had done a little bit more with this, But regardless, any of your non-effect monsters in the field do become unaffected by monster effects. So it means your opponent basically it's a little bit harder for your opponent to deal with some of your link monsters. And then whenever your opponent actually summons an effect monster, you are special summons one, you are able to draw 2 cards once per turn. So this is great because you do need to be able to get that card advantage. So the sooner you see it, the better. Called by the Grave, because you really don't want Ash Blossom to ruin your day. This is one of those decks that has no recourse if that happens, so try not to let it happen. Pot of Desires, this deck also, like I said with the field spell, you really desperately need card advantage. Tenyi don't gain lots of +1s, so any that you can get are helpful, and it doesn't really matter if you banish your Tenyis, you're probably going to lose if you didn't get the extra cards. So Monster Reborn is a nice card to have, and a second sort of Monster Reborn is World Legacy Succession. Since you've got Monk of Tenyi and several other link monsters, you can use this to easily summon your Tenyis to those zones. Next, there's Foolish Burial, which is good for sending Mare or other Tenyis if you want. So yeah, that's it for the spells. Then we've got traps, only a few. Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. So this is a really interesting counter trap. As long as you control a non-effect monster, you can use it. It can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect. It does not destroy the card, so that's something worth keeping in mind. So generally it's better to negate a spell or a trap with this as opposed to negating a monster effect, unless it's like a monster that had to discard itself, or maybe a hand trap. Otherwise, it can be a bit of a neg because your opponent will get to keep the monster. Now also, if this card gets destroyed by your opponent, you can special summon a non-effect monster from your extra deck. I am not running it because I cannot find it, but Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is generally the best thing to have in your extra deck for this card because it's got 4,500 attack, so why not have that? Next, I'm running 2 Waterfall of Dragon Souls. It's just a way to search more Tenyis or just draw cards. Typically, I kind of go for the draw effect because once you have a few Tenyis in motion, you don't really need to search many more, but you can do either one. And Skill Drain, because your end goal is to end up with a lot of non-effect monsters and have them be protected by your field spell and things like that. So Skill Drain becomes a pretty useful tech card to have. Okay, so that's it for the main deck. Now, again, I'm going to repeat this because I'm sure people will forget somehow. Totally Awesome and Bahamut Shark are really good to have for Shtana, and also Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is really good to have for your Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. Okay, anyway, Monk of the Tenyi. This is your go-to starter playmaker thing. Good, use it. Shaman of the Tenyi. So this is the one that can summon worms from your grave. Any worm, not just a Tenyi. Be careful though, it'll also lock you into them. And also it allows you to get rid of your opponent's cards whenever your non-effect monsters attack. So that's a pretty decent form of removal. Draco Masters the Tenyi, lets you pop a lot of cards, so that's pretty good. It's also got very good arrows for a Link 3. A Berserker of Tenyi, it's just a Tenyi named monster. You could always get this with your Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi if you're like me and don't own a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Now we have our new guy, so this is Tenyi Spirit Sahasrara. I wish it was a little bit better. It's a Link 4 monster, but its arrows really aren't great, given that like they gave better arrows to Draco Masters. But anyway, while you control a face-up non-effect monster, your opponent can't target any of your effect monsters for attacks or with other things, so it's pretty useful for that. Now also it's got a quick effect that lets you target one of your opponent's monsters and then summon a token that has that monster's attack and defense and everything. This is useful because if you have like something like Shaman of the Tenyi on the field, then you're giving yourself a non-effect monster to use with its effect, or a non-effect monster to trigger your other Tenyi monster's effects. So it's pretty good. I just wish that they'd given it better arrows, and maybe another effect would have been nice. So I've got Link Karibo, Link Spider, and Len. Anyway, and Borrelsword Dragon. These are just other helpful Link monsters. You could probably cut down on like a few of them, really, if you wanted to make room for the other things that I said, and we'll say for one more time, Bahamut Shark, Totally Awesome, and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Draco Berserker the Tenyi, their go-to synchro monster. This is very good. It can not negate monster effects, but when your opponent uses monster effects, it can banish that stuff. So that's pretty good. And then if it attacks, it can make another attack and increase its attack. It's kind of like a second Borrelsword Dragon. So really, you could just run this if you didn't want to have to run this. That'd give you more space. And then Yazi, which is great for making with Mare. This thing can actually pop itself and get you any worm you want from your deck. So sometimes that can come up, but it doesn't come up too often. And that is the Tenyi deck. So yes, Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of Tenyi. Remember those 3 extra deck cards I mentioned. And that's going to be it. See you guys in the next one. Pass turn.